gonna pack down. Oh, let's go.
All right, here we go.
Here we go.
Welcome to the show.
What's up? And we got Woody the cowgirl there.
Oh,
You got it. Go ahead, do another one. Let's go. I can edit it up. Do this as a quick little thing in the beginning.
Go on, do it.
Might as
You're
well.
done.
Yep. It's going to be an exciting show. We've got all kinds of stuff going on here. Go ahead and do the Christmas one. Might as well.
I like to do like the scary Christmas. August loves the scary Christmas. Present.
Christmas!
I don't know what's going on here, but we're going to talk about football soon.
But hey, kid, you know what? You have, let's see, you have like 2 more months of solid prep and presents before you get to the big present of Christmas.
And she's got a West Virginia jersey and a shirt, so
Yeah, does it say Cantwell on the
but
back?
we weren't prepared tonight, so
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Does it say Cantwell on the back?
No, it's pink.
Well,
all
I
right.
mean, okay.
Well, thank you for being our special guest.
Thank you.
Mm,
Yeah, you have about as much control over her as I have over JA.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
That's about
Yeah.
it. So we got WVU versus Kansas this week, Big John. We're looking at this game, and we've got looks like Kansas has beat Fresno State, Wagner, and lost to Missouri. So they're 2-1, same as
Correct.
West Virginia. West Virginia has beat Robert Morris, lost a close one to Ohio, the MAC champions last year, and just beat Pitt in the backyard brawl in a sensational overtime comeback. So, what are you thinking about these two schedules in the matchup here? How do you think these guys are pretty evenly matched?
Well, I think they are. I think which we're going to talk to a little bit later about the quarterback situation. But definitely, I think West Virginia has it. Except for the points per game. As long as we have the quarterback in that we all think should be in the game, then I don't think you'll have a problem. I don't think there'll be a problem. I think that's the only thing. If Kansas is looking at the points per game, they may be saying, "Hey, we outmatched them," but not really because of that whole quarterback situation.
You kind of pointed to the fact that Kansas might be looking at the QB statistics, and that might not be actually accurate as to the potential for the WVU
Like
offense.
the comparison we were talking about, points per game.
Okay.
All the rest of them are almost, weird. It's a total offense is right on the money. Passing yards, rushing yards. The only difference really here, you got opponents' passing yards a little bit more, but opponents' rushing yards a little bit less. But opponents' points per game is a little bit higher for Kansas. But looking at WVU, points per game is 28.7 as opposed to 36. So they're seeing so much, like you said, they're seeing so many different quarterbacks going in over the last 3 games that they're probably like, well, who's going to be the quarterback? We're kind of leaning towards maybe Nico, but they're seeing other people in the game for a good amount of time, not just a stint, but for 5 possessions.
Right.
So, I mean, I think yeah, like the quarterback situation, we get the quarterback situation taken. And then once you decide on that, then you have alternatives. But we'll get there in a minute.
This seems to be a little bit of a controversy. It's been framed as the coach as a QB controversy. Well, not necessarily a controversy, but a competition. And it's sort of turned into a controversy for the fans and in the public eye. Because what we've looked at is in the first game, let me look what we had here. We Uh, we absolutely stomped over Robert Morris, which is a buy-in game, which is to be expected, 45-3, right?
Hmm.
And I think I'm not sure. I think Nico was pulled out at like 31-3, I believe, after a comfortable lead. Um, but Nico really showcased a lot of arm talent, running talent. Now it's against a buy-in team, but he looked really good. Then we move on to Ohio, right?
Hmm.
And um, seems like Rich wants to sort of test other players. I don't know. He's using the games as a way to test and see what he's got, I suppose. I'm not sure exactly, what the motivation is or what's going on here, but we see a close game. We see a close game, and it looks like West Virginia is trailing by one score, 17-10 in the third quarter. And coach pulls out Nico Marchio. Um, while the game's still winnable. This is kind of a different approach, pulling the quarterback um, in a close game. Well, we end up losing that game. Um, I kind of fall on the side of if your QB's in a tight game, you don't pull your QB unless they're doing something that's drastically bad.
Right.
Um, and then
Like throw two interceptions
right,
within
as we saw,
5 minutes, right?
right,
I mean, that's pretty bad. You got to pull them on that.
right. Um, I kind of felt like the Ohio game. You leave your QB in there. It's a tight game. You don't start experimenting. Um, who knows how that game would have ended? But I felt like Nico was um, competent to win a war of attrition. And it seems as though Rich doesn't want any wars of attrition, as we'll see as we got into the pit game. Um, WVU's up by a full score, 7-3. So that's a touchdown. They got a score to get ahead, and this is early in the third quarter. We're ahead, and I believe Nico was 9 for 12.
Hmm.
I believe, and productive. Nothing sensational, but we're in the game. And coach inexplicably takes him out again. Starts putting in other players, which, by the way, in in the Ohio game, he was pulled with the score being 17-10, and Nico was responsible for the previous drives that resulted in the 10 points, and which was the only points we had, and he's pulled out, and WVU doesn't score any more points at all,
Yeah.
and we lose 17-10.
And you
now
remember,
now this the following week we're we're winning 7-3, and we're up by a full score in the third quarter again, and this time we're winning, and he pulls him out. And now we see the momentum shift, and WVU goes into a 10-point deficit from winning to losing. And as you mentioned earlier, he puts in a freshman who does score, right? He does
right?
get us on a scoring drive, but then proceeds to um, sacrifice, basically give up 2 possessions on turnovers by throwing 2 interceptions in a row. Then puts in another um, alternate quarterback, and looks like wastes 5 possessions, 5 total possessions before we reach late in the fourth quarter, and he decides to put Nico Marchio back in. Um, and then of course everybody saw what happened when Nico comes back into the game. Um, just absolutely sensational play. Uh, some serious, rapid, and you got to give Rich credit for, um, his fast paced offense. But for Nico to come back into a game that he was benched and was winning, was taken off the field. Now we're in a 10-point deficit, and this kid comes back with limited time and has the poise and the accuracy in a fast-paced offense that the coach is demanding of him, and throwing strike after strike. Just sensational play. And I mean, honestly, for me, that was arguably one of the most exciting finishes I've seen in a West Virginia game, especially being that it's the backyard brawl.
Mhm.
I don't know. Maybe you can give us some insight on what's happening, what's going on there. It's like Nico's getting pulled out, and not necessarily commenting on. We can talk about later about maybe what's going on in the coach's mind, but like, what are you seeing? What's going on there? We got this kid who's winning the game, playing a competent, uh, steady game, no errors. He's pulled out. He sits on the bench. The team goes stagnant, and we go behind by 10 points. We fall behind by 10 points, and it looks like people shut it off. A lot of people shut that game off. I saw comments of people shutting the game off because they were like, we lost. And then Nico comes back out on the field and just delivers an absolute, like, champion, heroic, I mean, for lack of a better word, performance. What do you see is happening there?
You had that offensive line. That offensive line decided to start blocking. And I will tell you, I mean, that game, that Ohio game, there was some issues with the offensive line. Everybody, I don't think that's in question or in doubt. There was some issues. I think they fixed a lot of those issues.
Mm-hmm.
But when you look at both, I'm going to tell you, when you look at the fans, you look at the players, and you look at, I think, even the coaches in some way, even though we don't want to talk about them. I think
Mm-hmm.
when Nico steps on that field, everybody has that feeling of, okay, we have a chance now. Everybody believes that quarterback, Nico Marchio, is going to be the playmaker and get it done. And he shows it when he gets out on the field. You give him enough protection, and your receivers get where they need to be, he's going to get the ball in their hands.
Yeah, and we've seen that. We've seen that time and again. And it's interesting because let me go back to my notes here just so I can pull it up quickly. But Nico has won, with the exception of Ohio, which he was pulled out of the game. He's won every game that his number's been called as a backup,
When you
because
let
this
him
is
do
his
his
first
job,
year as a starter. So he's come in as a backup starter, and he's beat Oklahoma State, he's beat Cincinnati, he's beat Texas Tech, he's beat Pitt. Now he's beat Pitt twice, and
Mhm.
he's beat Arizona. And some of those games were wars of attrition. And when he was playing those games, Brown didn't have really any other options, and Nico stayed in there
Mhm.
and won those games. Um, and this is another reason I feel like Nico would probably, if you're basing it on what he's done in the past, and mind you, he beat all of those teams that I just mentioned. These are major FBS teams. Okay, with little or no first team practice reps because
Mhm.
Green was getting the majority of the reps. Okay, so yeah, maybe he had time to prepare within the week. So um, for Coach Rodriguez to pull Nico out in a tight one score game, it I'm still I'm still trying to figure that out, and we're gonna talk more about it. Um, and there's also after doing some research, there's other reasons, not just the fact that Nico has had the poise and the talent to win games against major FBS teams without the benefit of first team reps. Okay, but I just want to pull up some statistics here and talk about for Power Five teams. Um, I want to talk about why pulling a QB is irrational um, when you're in a tight game.
Hmm.
Okay. In Power Five matchups, first halves are typically within one or two scores, and that's the norm. That's the norm. And statistically, okay, 60 to 65% of games have a halftime margin of under 14 points. Okay. So if if the standard statistically is that when you have when you have power five matchups in general, normally the score is relatively even for most of the game, first half at least. Okay. And so many games in college football are, if not most, are won by attrition. Okay. You see the adjustment of play. Um, One team starts to weaken for various reasons. And so it's kind of perplexing to see a coach sort of experimenting with the outcome of the game because of a close game, especially when a quarterback's playing competently and you're winning.
Hmm.
So I just wanted to make that point that it's kind of unusual that we see Rich pulling Nico out of the game, which it, in the last couple games seems to have a negative detriment. So what I'm hoping to see is that moving forward, especially after this Pitt game, I mean, it couldn't be any more evident. It could not be any more evident that Nico is the catalyst that holds this team together. And you
Hmm.
start swapping him out, and the team plays differently. You've got quarterbacks that just aren't as experienced. Now, these guys might be great down the line, but like right now, it seems like we need to just leave Nico in the game, and then the coach support your quarterback. If you're not getting protection at the line, then adjust your plays uh, to compensate for that, but support your quarterback. And it seems like we've been in this sort of amorphous looking. Coach Rodriguez likes to use the term, I was trying to get a spark. He's used that in the last couple post game conferences. Well, at what point does trying to find a spark equate to just trying to get lucky by putting somebody in there randomly? Um, so I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? For me, I feel like um, you've got a competent quarterback that's proven that he can get it done, especially we have a clutch quarterback in Nico.
Mhm.
Um, so I just wanted to bring that up. This is something I think is a coaching issue. Not, I don't want to get too negative on the coach, but it's definitely something that the fans are noticing. Uh, it's not a it's kind of a blatant thing, to be honest.
Mm.
It's kind of a blatant judgment error. Um, so I don't know if that's got something to do with Rich's history. And, you played football back in the day, closer to that time. And so you're familiar with sort of how Rich, sort of his game evolved. And maybe that's got something to do with his mentality about things, which, may be a good thing or may not be a good thing. But so far, it seems to be not a good thing.
I think, Eric, I think there's a potential of greatness here. And I say this because, you remember my friend Dale Wolfley. I passed him, talked to him one time about personnel changes and using
Hmm.
what you have, right? And there seems to be this mold with coaches that, all right, you have your quarterback, and then you put your tailback in, which is a strictly running guy, and then you have your fullback, who's a strictly blocker and maybe a short yardage man, right? But if you're using all these different quarterbacks and you're trying to throw these quarterbacks and get a spark with their talent, like Fox is a good running quarterback. He's very good at running the ball and seeing the spot, but passing is not his strong sport, right? He can pass. He is a passer, but that's not where I would go with him, right?
Hmm.
So if you're going to use and get a spark, then I think no better spark than taking someone like Nico, who is a great pro style pocket quarterback. And there's the squeak in the background.
That's okay.
Pro style pocket quarterback. And then taking someone like Fox and putting him maybe, in that tailback position. You
Right.
get a spark because that defense is going to be like, wait a second, why does he have two, like the immortal words of Remember the Titans? Why are they putting another quarterback in? You put another quarterback, you cause a damage, not only a quarterback in which Neil Brown seemed to fail to realize. You're going to put if you put Nico in the game, you put Garrett in as a running back, and you got two guys that can play tough as nails, and that can play and get the job done, and you can go either direction. And the ideas of what you want to run are limitless. But for some reason, they can't get away from, let's just put the mold, put a quarterback in, get a running back in, and then I'm going to pull out my best quarterback to put in another quarterback. Leave him in the game.
So it's kind of like he's trying to reproduce sort of what he did in the early 2000s rather than look at the team and look at
Personnel.
the athletes that he has and and use what he has. It seems like he's trying to um sort of make what he did happen with Pat White and Steve Slayton back in the day when you were, uh, well, you were before that, but in his previous WVU days, he sort of had success experimenting with players. I guess experimenting.
I wouldn't call it experimenting at that time. I'd say
Yeah,
he
at
kind
that
of failed on
time,
that
some
one.
people got hurt, and Pat White and
Yeah.
Steve Slayton came in.
Adam Bednarik was the starting quarterback, and then we
Yeah.
got down in the hole. He got hurt, with what was it, like 10 minutes left of the game, and got Pat White in there, and then all of a sudden we're in a 3 overtime thriller.
Right. And he had success with Pat White coming in to replace Bednarik. And Pat White obviously was a dynamic runner and could scramble. A great option quarterback, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it seems like he's trying to force that to happen with a new team of completely different players of different skill sets. And I think that's kind of where we're going wrong here, because it seems like he's trying to force that type of offense onto a set of players, including, well, specifically a quarterback that is clearly a passing quarterback that's highly skilled and very talented.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really know how else to frame that other than he's trying to recreate what he did before, but with a whole different set of players on the board that don't match that description. And so he's sort of in the middle of a game trying to stumble into somebody that can recreate that for him. I mean, I don't know how else to describe it. Because like we discussed before, it seems counterintuitive to pull out a quarterback that's managing a game and keeping you in the game, and then doing that results in your detriment. And we've seen that in the last two games. So I don't. For me, I'd kind of like to see that that hint. I'd like to see the coach not work against the team in that way,
Mm-hmm.
because it seems like the coach is working against the team instead of working for the team, because the coach has this idea that he's a mastermind, that he's gonna just plug and play players interchangeably, that and I don't think that that's a realistic mindset. I don't think that's a realistic mindset that you just pull somebody off the bench and throw them in and then hope that something's going to happen. When for me, I feel like the coach should be trying to support um, their player that gives them the best chance at winning. Now,
Right.
he might say that he's still evaluating players to see what he can get out of them, and there's validity to that, I suppose. But at this point with a quarterback, especially somebody like Nico Marchio, okay, a kid that has come through for West Virginia against FBS teams, um, including Oklahoma State, Cincinnati, Pitt, Texas Tech, Arizona, and he's come through with very little practice, very little first team practice. Come through for West Virginia, time and again. Had us in the game against Ohio and got pulled out, and I think that was a big detriment to West Virginia to pull him out of the game, because a lot of games are close games. Most games are close games. We've seen that. It's there's statistics to back it up. The data backs it up. Most Power 5 FBS games are close games, especially in the first half. And what concerns me is what I'm seeing is Rich is intolerant to a close game. It seems like he wants West Virginia to if let me put it this way. It seems as though if West Virginia is not jumping ahead and just running over a team in the first half of a game, that his default is to pull his quarterback. And that is not consistent with what we see from a statistical standpoint, in the majority of matchups of college football. Most Power Five games are relatively close games in the first half, and so it seems that the coach has an unrealistic expectation that he's putting on a he's putting on his team that if you're not running away with the game and it's a close game, then I'm going to swap out the quarterback, and that's what we're seeing. And what we've seen in the last couple of games is that has been extremely detrimental to the result.
Right.
So I don't, you know, that he's the coach, he's the one getting paid. Hey, I'm a fan. I want the team to do well. Just pointing this out, I don't think I'm the only one from what I've seen. It seems like a lot of people that have been watching the games are seeing this, and they're asking the same question. Now, you know, this is a coach's prerogative. Maybe this is just the way he's you know, he's trying to feel out the team. Maybe he's trying to find players, but he's doing a lot of experimenting. Like, you can only experiment for so long. You had an entire off season to evaluate your quarterbacks. He clearly chose Nico because Nico is the most competent player and obviously performed the most consistently in practice. And I think at some point you got to just have the conviction, and you have to trust your quarterback, and you got to work for your quarterback. This idea that you're a mastermind and that players are just a commodity that are interchangeable, I think is a errant mindset. If it was a valid mindset, then you would see in Division I football and in the NFL, you would see it as the standard, but it's not, and there's a reason for that. There's many reasons why you evaluate the player, and the coach's job is to recognize the talent, to recognize the player that gives you the best chance of winning. It's not to sort of think that you swapping out players is the special elixir to win the game. It just doesn't work that way.
Right.
And so I don't know. I'm just hoping that you know, at some point here, we're going into the fourth game. Okay. I'm hoping that the coach makes a shift to recognize that Nico is giving us the best chance of winning, and then he does things to adjust the play and the things that are happening on the field to support and give his quarterback the best chance of winning, rather than looking for a spark, which is kind of just more like gambling. Well, if I throw this guy in here, maybe something will happen. There's just so many things that are working against that statistically and just common sense wise. You can kind of give me your thoughts on that.
I think Rodriguez has a lot. I mean, remember, he left West Virginia in a not a great way, so he's got a lot of eating crow to do, and he's got a lot of pressure on him. It usually take Rich a couple of years, at least the first year is a rebuilding year, right? But West Virginia and fans wise, we've been sitting on the sidelines waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting, and we're tired of waiting. So yeah, I mean, the heat's on Rich. He's got to start winning, and you know, perhaps like you said, maybe he's he's hoping this Pat White phenomenon will come back around. He's got Pat White on his staff, so maybe
Right.
he's hoping the Pat White phenomenon will happen again. Lightning strikes twice, but he definitely has to get behind your. Like I said earlier, when Nico's on the field, and it's a lot of people. I mean, I'm just not. It's people that I talk to, people that are on Facebook, people that are just guys that I know.
Mhm.
When Nico steps on that field, the entire team plays better. They know they trust their quarterback. Whenever I was in school, back in '93, we had two quarterbacks. We had Jay Kelchner and we had Darren Studstill. When Jay Kelchner was that pocket quarterback, when he was on the field, we knew we were going to go places, right?
There's a vibe shift,
There's a
so to
vibe
speak,
shift.
on the field.
Right. And when we had Darren on the field, Darren did his job, and we were expecting him to be more of a Jay Kelchner, but he was his own way of doing, and he got the job done too. But some of the younger quarterbacks, that wasn't the feeling. You just didn't have that feeling like they were going to go out there and command that field, just like Jay Kelchner did. So now that you have Nico Marchiol, he commands that field, and he goes in there and he's on the ball and he's going to make the plays. He's going to be smart. He very few interceptions he has. He has most yardage, and unfortunately, this year, with the way that our schedule is, every game is going to be a grind. It's not going to be a blowout game like you had.
Right.
Everyone, like you said, every game is going to be
A war of
slow
attrition.
until you get to halftime, and then
Yep.
we'll see what happens after that. And that's where we beat out on Robert Morris. That's where we beat out Pitt, because we were better conditioned, and the other guys were just falling down on Pitt team, right? They were falling down on Robert Morris. But Ohio, they weren't. We weren't better conditioned than them. They were just as good as we were,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
So
and I think that pulling Nico in the third quarter was with one score deficit, 17-10, and that's the way the game ended.
yeah,
Nico was responsible for those 10 points. He was at the helm when we scored our 10 points. Well, we took him out and we didn't score anymore. Yeah, maybe to me that's a testament of, you stick with your quarterback and let him work. Some games are close games. Not all games are runaway games. Like a lot of games are close games. So
you want your quarterback to be comfortable. You don't want him putting under pressure. That's great that Nico was able to take that pressure of 6 minutes left in that Pitt game and make it
Right.
happen. But there was no reason for that. There was no reason to put that type of pressure on him to do that, and hoping for a spark, when that's what he did in the Ohio game. You put him in there and you say, okay, well, now I'm going to take you out and I'm going to put you in at the end of the game and see what you can do.
the very end of the game.
Yeah,
When it was too late. And he was
Yeah.
being productive when he went back in. It was just too late.
right.
It was just too late.
So I mean, Rich has some things he's got to figure out. You could tell on the sidelines, whenever that Pitt game was over with, he was jubilated. He wasn't happy most of that game. Right?
He was
Especially the
relieved.
10-point swing.
That wasn't
Right.
just joy. That was relief.
Yeah, that was relief that somebody just pulled him out of the flames. So, definitely, we're to the point. I think, the players know. The players know it best. The coaches think they know it, but the players know it. Players know what's going on, and you just got to trust in your players to get the job done. You taught them everything. You taught them everything they need. Now let them do the job.
Well, and to your point, I did notice in at least 3 of the post-game press conferences of players, including Ty Edwards, I believe Clay Ash, and are just several of the players in post-game were asked about Nico, and they made the point that having Nico's the kind of guy that you can trust, and to see him come back in composed and be a leader, like he's the kind of guy that can rally around.
Mhm.
And we see it on the field. Every time he goes out there, I'm glad you brought that up, because I wanted to talk about a little bit about um, Nico Marchio's background, and um, this is also another reason that I don't think, in my opinion, it's prudent to, first of all, for all the reasons that we talked about, but particularly for Nico, to pull him out of a game that is a close game. Not much, against Pitt. It was after the half, and they were both in the third quarter in tight games, and um, if you know anything about Nico Marchio, his background is that this kid, everybody knows who he is because he's a clutch player. This guy gets better as the game goes on, and he turns it on and he gets it done.
Mhm.
Okay. Um, I want to talk a little bit about why he ended up at West Virginia and why anybody even knows about this kid.
Mhm.
Um, Nico Marchio played at Hamilton High School in Arizona, which is one of the highest competition for high school football. And he played in um, one of the arguably greatest high school comebacks in all of sports history, of high school football sports history, possibly all of sports history, uh, with a minute and 10 seconds left. His team was losing 24-7, an 18-point deficit, a minute and 10 seconds, 70
Mhm.
seconds. And this kid brought his team back to win against Bishop Gorman on ESPN in high school. He's 17 years old, okay?
Mhm.
And they win 25-14, an 18-point deficit in 70 seconds.
Yeah.
And there's footage of this kid. He's on the sideline. His arm's bleeding. He's got blood all running down his arm. He's throwing up on the sideline on his hands and knees. And the coach comes up to him. This is to the point where they're within one score. He's brought them back from 18 points deficit. They're one score from winning. Okay. The,
Mhm.
the coach comes up to him, taps him on the shoulder, and uh, says, can you do this? Do we need to put the other guy in? We want to run this play.
Right.
The kid gets up bloody, goes to the line. He's puking through his face mask at the line. Takes the ball, takes the snap, runs the play, runs the ball into the end zone, wins one of the most miraculous comebacks, arguably in all football. Arguably, you could put it in there. I mean, when you're talking about 70 seconds and an 18-point deficit, so this kid's a warrior. He's a winner. And it's interesting because we saw in the Pitt game it was almost a reliving. Like, this kid's like, oh, I've been here before. Coach had him on the bench. How many players would get down on themselves? Or he comes out 10-point deficit. What was there? I don't remember how much time was left, but there wasn't much time left to do much, but drives straight down the field. Makes up the 10 points, goes to overtime, drives down the field again, making some fantastic throws, and wins against Pitt in the backyard brawl in a miraculous fashion, a similar miraculous fashion. Now, at what point do you stop? At what point do you stop ignoring the these qualities in your player? Like, I don't know. I don't know what's going. Like, I think coaches like to coach, but for me, I think a coach a big part of a coach's job is to recognize the value in their players. It's not that the coaching is not about the coach. Coaching is not about the coach being the chooser of the players and making it about the coach to call the shots.
Mhm.
A big part of a coach's job is recognizing the is not choosing the players, but recognizing the players that have the greatness in them. And that's a matter of judgment. That's a matter of having good judgment. And when you got to have good judgment in order to have conviction on the field. So when you're standing on the sideline, you're a coach and you're in a close game, like you have to have the fortitude to be able to stand behind your player and give them the support that they need and recognize the problems that are happening. And I feel like, based on my observations of the Ohio game, our offensive line is young and was struggling. Okay, our offensive line, we had the ability to offer limited time blocking for the quarterback, meaning they could keep the defensive line at bay for a under average amount of time, just sort of keep them away from the quarterback for a limited time, a less than average time, a very short duration. But they either lack the strength, the skill, the experience, or the technique to be able to push. Okay. And that's why we weren't having a lot of success with running the ball or running the quarterback, because there's a difference between blocking and keeping a defensive line at bay for a moment and pushing them around and moving them to execute running plays and strategically push. And I don't think that Rich recognized that. I think that Rich, he defaulted to his, well, Nico's not getting it done in the way that I want, so I'm going to put somebody
immediately.
Yeah, so I'm going to put somebody else in there that maybe can give us a spark and run like Pat White, and it just wasn't realistic. And to be honest, I hope he can break this pattern, because that's not coaching. What Nico needed was an adjustment of play during that game. He needed support from his coach, because what we saw was Nico was able to. He was very effective still. The only success we were having was, if you go back and you look at the game, how we got our 10 points is Nico threw the ball over the middle and downfield. And those were plays that were executed in rapid time. They were rapid passes under limited pass protection, like limited time pass protection. And this is why, when you put Jalen in and you try and make him run, he's not doing any better, because the offensive line was not pushing. So what the coach needed to recognize in that moment was that, okay, I gotta start calling plays that are rapid passes, rapid, as fast as you can get the ball off, throw the ball, because the offensive line is not pushing. Now, in the post pressers, you said, well, yeah, they weren't pushing that well. Well, no, it was more than that. They couldn't push at all. They weren't pushing at all. That's why once in a while, we got some running plays out, and that's going to happen. But just as a general rule, the line was not able to block efficiently or not able to push efficiently. And so I feel like that's I'm hoping that that's something that after the Pitt game, from a leadership standpoint, I hope that the coach can sort of reframe their objective. Is their objective to force a recreation of a Pat White onto this team? Because that's an error. To try to force a recreation or a reenactment of the Pat White days, that's a mistake, because he has a quarterback that's a completely different type of player, but is talented in a completely different way. And I think that that's kind of where the disparity, that's where the problem's happening. And as soon as I think that the coach recognizes that and stops trying to keep going with this interchangeable players mentality in order to sort of find that Pat White offense again, we're going to be in trouble. And
if you take a look now, keep in mind that whole thing with Hamilton High School in 2021, they were ranked. Hamilton was ranked 24th in the country by USA Today, and they were playing Bishop Gorman, the Gales of Bishop Gorman, who were number 7.
Yeah.
Now you have a guy, they're 24-7 with 65 seconds to go, and you score. You end up taking over that game and winning at 25-24. That right there is, on that type of stage, he was a man among boys then, right? So now you get him to West Virginia, and in West Virginia, he wasn't used where he needed to be used. He was, for whatever reason, I mean, Garrett Green he was a decent quarterback, but he wasn't Nico caliber. So he sat on the bench basically, except when they needed him to win, and he came in and won. So now you got him, and he just did probably one of the biggest wins in the last decade, right?
Absolutely.
Against Pitt. When do you finally say, okay, the quarterback position is taken care of, let's move on to some other things we have, like defense, like play calling?
Yeah,
like,
let's make the quarterback we have work.
And if you want to get Fox in there, then put him in there as a receiver, or put him in there as a tailback and give him that option. Now you can come up with a lot of different plays. A lot of different plays where you have 2 quarterbacks involved. You can use his strength, but his strength right now, Fox's strength is not passing the football.
Right.
His strength is running the ball. So use him where you need to. And if you need to, you cut across the back.
Well, same thing with Jalen Henderson. Same
thing.
Take
it directly from the snap.
Yeah. If you want those guys in there and you want the running ability, you want to see that athleticism, there's so many configurations that you could use them with Nico as your quarterback. Now, just kind of going back to, I did want to circle back to because this is important in the type of quarterback that Nico is important to recognize. If we could just give up on this, trying to have another Pat White offense, which, by the way, Neil Brown with Garrett Green was trying to force that same sort of offense as well. Correct?
Right.
And that's why Nico was sitting on the bench. He wanted this sort of running offense that was sort of like a Pat White thing. Now, and that's not really that's more explanatory as to why you have this great value and equity in a player sitting on the bench. It's because of the mentality of the offense that the coaches wanted. You know, the mentality of the coaches in the offense that they wanted to run. It didn't match what they had sitting on the bench. You see what I'm saying? But I wanted to point out, like, just because we were talking about the history of Nico, a lot of people don't realize this, and I noticed that the WVU coaches have brought up Tyler Shook. Shook, how do you pronounce it? Guy from Louisville. Shook. This did. A lot of people don't know that Tyler Shook went to Hamilton High School as well. Okay, and the West Virginia coaches are talking about how great Tyler is, right? Nico Marchio actually holds more records at Hamilton and beat Tyler's records at Hamilton. Nico has most touchdowns in a season, which beat Tyler's. Most total offensive yards in a season. Holds most passing yards in a season. And fewest interceptions in a season. These are all records that Nico came in after Tyler and took those records. And we've had this kid sitting on the bench.
Yeah.
And finally, against Pitt, this kid has been, well, not even finally, because we've already talked about the games that he came in with no practice and just was expected to run an offense that wasn't designed for him, that he hadn't practiced for. But he comes in against all these teams and beats them. But finally, I think in the Pitt game, it became undeniable. Like, at some point, you can't make excuses. You can't dodge it. You can't, the coach has to the coaches have to take responsibility for their decisions, and you can't blame it on anything else. Like, Nico Marchio belongs in the game.
Right.
He belongs in the game. It couldn't be more evident than the Pitt game.
And we're seeing that now with Neil Brown. Neil Brown he let a great opportunity pass him by because for whatever reason he loved Garrett Green and he wasn't going to really use Nico unless he recruited the guy, get him on the field, but it was very seldom. But now you got Rodriguez, and I think Rodriguez knows he's got a good quarterback. And like you said in the beginning, he was looking for a spark. Well, you got a spark.
So hopefully moving into this game on Saturday, it'll be interesting to see, very interesting, especially after what we witnessed at the Pitt game, if coach modifies his strategy.
Right.
That'll be very interesting. I'm hoping that, like you said, the coach starts to recognize, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go now. I've seen enough that, I'm going to go with, I've got my quarterback.
Well, we had the first couple of games.
See.
We had the first couple of games that he did what he did. And not to rehash it, but now we're to the point where, like I said earlier, being West Virginia, fans are tired of mediocre seasons. He was brought back. Rodriguez was brought back because we want to see something. And this first year, we see a lot where his first year is always a rebuilding year. Well, you have the talent. Now you got to coach them up and make it happen where you come in and you're working on your own recruiting. But this year needs to look like, hey, we're going to go for a championship. We're going to do the best we can this year, and we're going to win as many games as we can and be ready to play football. I mean, you had the offseason, get it done.
Yeah, he's got to have. Yeah, he's got to have some patience. That's the thing. Like, um, but there's going to have to be patience in that. Like with a new team like this, he's got to have patience and support his players, not just I think the time for swapping out players that's over. Like
Right.
testing, that's done. But so final thoughts. I'm going to tell you mine, then you give me yours. Uh, I think as long as coach can get out of his own way, based on what I'm seeing, looking at Kansas, uh, you keep Nico in there, the game. You got Ty Edwards in there now, uh, and uh, I think I think as long as that line it plays like they did in the second half, Pitt towards the end of the game there, and the line seems to be improving. I think we beat Kansas. I don't think that their defensive line. I don't think that they're necessarily. I think we're probably going to have a even match there. Hopefully, um, and I think that we didn't talk about, but Zach Ali's uh, defense, I think, is we are in the right direction with that, and I think that they're gonna. Um, I think they're gonna throw Kansas QB off. I don't think he's. I think that they're gonna rattle him, and I think we come away with a victory as long as coach has conviction in his players and he keeps Nico in there and he lets that team rally around Nico. And it could be a war of attrition, but if he for once just leaves him in there and lets those guys play and supports them, I think we're going to win that game.
And
A
I think
lot,
you're right. I think build off the momentum you had last week. You have a really good opportunity
yes.
to improve on your, make it go 3-1 with your first conference game. You came off a big win here. Do enough of the experimenting. Just go out there, play like you were doing. I mean, Rich isn't known for running multiple, plays. He runs a lot of formations. So get out there, get after them. Coach your players up. You got a quarterback. Change personnel. You got plenty of personnel. Go
Mm-hmm.
out there and win that game.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we can do it. The way that we're moving, we gotta learn from our mistakes on the coaching front. I think, and the offensive line's got to continue to get better. But I like this team. I like the talent. I
Mhm.
like the players. Um, and this is a team that you can root for. I mean, really, of all teams, like this is a team you can root for.
Right.
Um, anyway, I just want to say thank you to you for all your knowledge and bringing your insight to talk about this game. Appreciate you spending the time to do that. And if anybody didn't notice the background that Big John Cantwell has, he's a former offensive lineman for West Virginia, and he has a spice business, custom spice, high quality. Check him out. What's the website to?
Well, it's smokersunited.net, or more importantly, it's
Okay.
westvirginiaunited.com. Right? Both of them go to the same place. It's a custom small craft batches of rubs, spice blends.
I have no doubt that this guy, his spices are good. And thanks again, John, for taking the time to share your knowledge and expertise. And let's go ears. Let's go
Let's go,
Mountaineers,
brother.
baby.